the big news is while Chelsea are looking for a permanent manager, they appear to be on the verge of bringing back the guy who was their permanent manager before, Frank Lampard Jr. Now, he's coming off. He was let go by Everton earlier this year. So this makes sense to me.
No, it can't be. It can't, Gab.
Can I finish? This makes sense to me if Frank Lampard says, you know what? I want to have a role in this Chelsea team. Maybe not as coach, but I back myself. You know, Frank Lampard, everybody's met this. The guy is really smart. He's really intelligent. Loves Chelsea. Probably, like many people, says boldly and Iqbali. You know.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a role for me at the club as a head of football operations, whatever, in the future. And maybe if I'm just here and I'm around them.
Okay, that's from his point of view.
From his point of view.
Where does it make sense from Chelsea's point of view?
Okay, this would require Iqbali and Boli saying, all right, we made a lot of really dumb decisions and we've put our faith in the wrong people and we need a football CEO. Because Boli can't, and Iqbali, much as they'd like to, they can't be here and play CEO for the foreseeable future, right? They're owners. And why don't we hang out with Frank for a couple months and see? He's smart. Maybe he interviewed really well.
Okay, I will ask you again. CEO, where does it make sense from the Chelsea point of view to have him on the bench for the remaining of the season?
Because the season's over. It doesn't matter, right? So maybe you get a lift with Frank against Real Madrid, whatever. Maybe you take your chance in the Champions League. You know, long shot, but whatever. We've been there before.
You are kind. You're very kind. It makes no sense. And I love Frank Lampard and we work together at BT. It makes no sense whatsoever. Right. It doesn't make any sense.
Todd and Beta, if you want to let us know what you were thinking, please, you know where to find me. All right, Jules, I want to move on to Luis Enrique, but I want to complete this Lampard thing.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is the scenario I have, right? Lampard lives walking distance from the ground. Lampard wants to help. So you buy my reasons why Lampard would do this, right? Why it makes sense for Frank Lampard.
Yeah, if he's asked.
No, if he's asked why he would put himself forward. Let's face it, right? It's not like it's not like Boli and Iqbali are home watching YouTube videos and they're like, oh, this guy Lampard, yeah, wait, who's he? You know. You understand why? To some degree, somebody would have put him in, right?
If Lampard had been in Graham Potter's staff, Chelsea would have sacked everybody but Lampard, and Lampard would have taken over as an interim coach, like Stellini and Mason.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
On that point,
so you can see the appeal from Lampard's perspective.
Yeah, but Lampard was not in Graham Potter's staff.
Right.
So now we saw him we saw that he was at the Liverpool game. Did Iqbali and Boli just bumped into him and said, oh yeah, you legend, token for the fans who hate us right now. Yeah, maybe. Because other than that, I just don't see, as a manager, why he would bring. But maybe you're right. Maybe you just see out the season.
And maybe Bruno doesn't feel that he's ready to be number one even on an interim basis between now and the end of the season. Because it's 4 years ago, I think the guy was still playing, right?
Yeah.
But why the question is, what you don't understand is from Boli and Iqbali's point of view, why Lampard interim?
To start with, right. Because I don't rate him as a coach. But then the guys they're after to become permanent are all out of a job right now, right? If you would just say Luis Enrique, Nagelsmann, Pochettino, let's say for the sake of them three, why can't they come now?
I think the reason they can't come now is that they all know their value. So in other words, first of all, with Nagelsmann, I think you would still need to spend time with Bayern resolving that contractual situation, right? So then time, results, they're paying Real Madrid, well, I guess it's 2 weeks' time, but still, right?
Yeah.
I think they're thinking, and maybe they can still do that. Maybe they bring in Lampard, maybe just a couple days, and then they say, hey, Frank, because look, I don't know if they do this, right? But if they do bring in Lampard and they say, Frank, we'll pay you until we bring in a new manager. Are you cool with that? And he says yes, because he just wants to be around the club. Maybe he realizes that this club is his dimension and it makes sense for him, right? He's not in a position to argue, no, I want a 3-year deal, right? It's an interim.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if Nagelsmann took over before the end of the season. The other one that you mentioned, other than Luis Enrique, Poch.
Yeah, Poch.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah.
just for someone
Poch
who's
has his
out,
bags packed and he's ready to come.
yeah,
I think with
he's ready to go
Pochettino,
anywhere.
I think there's another element. I don't think they're sold on Pochettino.
Yeah, no,
I think
maybe.
also remember when Spurs threw away the league title and there was the battle at Stamford Bridge.
Of course.
I still think there's some level of bad blood. I think they're aware of we don't want to bring somebody in who the fans are not going to like or harbor old grudges. I remember years ago when Chelsea were linked with George Graham, and the whole stadium started singing "You can stick George Graham up your backside." Backside. To the match-going contingent, there's still a big part of the match-going contingent that's kind of old school. I mean,
of
these
course.
things matter.
We saw
to
it
them.
with Benitez as well.
And,
they
don't. Yeah, and Rafa Benitez as well. I mean, I don't think Poch was ever as acrimonious. But
no,
they really don't like Spurs.
Yeah.
I think that's
It's a
very
fair
obvious,
point.
right?
Yeah.
So that leaves Luis Enrique. Now, there's reports. Several people have come out and said that some are even saying he's in London now to talk to them. He said he wasn't going to take a job before the summer, right?
Yeah.
I think if I'm Luis Enrique, I could see the appeal and likes the Premier League. Even then, it's the kind of thing where you ask him, "Hey, Luis Enrique, do you like the Premier League?" What's he going to say? No, I don't like the. Nobody's going to say that, right?
Yeah.
What's curious to me, if you go with somebody like Lucho, you got to take the whole thing. You got to take the whole package. And the Lucho package comes with so many quirks and foibles and things that don't fit English football. Now, I can say Pep Guardiola didn't fit English football. Jurgen Klopp didn't, and then they came in and then they changed it. Arsene Wenger didn't fit English football. That's fine. But that was a long-term project. Those were long-term, well-funded projects. Took a while to get going.
Yeah.
Do Boli and Igbali right now, when you've spent all this money, when you've got a clear vision of the direction of travel that you're going in, or that you're say you're going in with all the young players you bought and whatever, is this really what you want? Luis Enrique, who maybe says like, I want Eric Garcia or whatever. Or do you know what I mean? Like,
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Because he is not somebody who is flexible.
Yeah, that's true.
He's somebody who will speak his mind.
Yeah.
I told you, my old buddy Franco Baldini, when they were at Roma, he said, Luis Enrique is the man, secretly, we all want to be, but just don't have the guts to be.
Yeah.
Because it comes with a price that you pay.
Yeah.
And
I mean, my thing is, if they thought it was hard to work with Thomas Tuchel, and that's why they sacked him eventually. I mean, Luis Enrique is not easy to work with either, in terms of stubbornness and personality, as you said. And
not stubborn in a bad way, stubborn just because
just with his own idea and philosophy.
He says, I don't force you to agree with me, but I'm going to do my own thing because I believe it's right.
Exactly. But again, so you go from Tuchel to Potter, who's completely different, who is far more
accommodating.
Yeah. And even that is not working for you, to go back to someone who's far closer to Tuchel than he is to
You've made a commitment.
But Nagelsmann is quite similar too, to be fair.
To some degree, but I think there's a fundamental difference here. At some point, a club has to have an identity, right? It has to have a certain direction of travel that you bear. You have decided to buy into, we can call it the Red Bull model, if you want, in terms of the types of players you want, in terms of the type of football you play, and so on, right? And you've brought in Christopher Vivell to be your technical director and Lawrence Stewart to be your co-sporting director.
Yeah.
Win Stanley, while he's not a former Red Bull guy and was at Brighton, in some ways, similar model, similar background. There's an overlap there with what Brighton were doing, right? They should decide the next manager. They should decide the next manager on the basis that it be somebody who's compatible with what they want to do. Now, I'm sure Frank Lampard can learn, because he's a very intelligent guy, in the interim basis. And this is why in his head he thinks longer term, who knows. I can't see Luis Enrique ever saying, let's do things the Red Bull way. Ever. Right? It's just a different approach. And, same thing goes for Poch as well, because we've seen this before. Poch, as great as he is when he was at Spurs, he has his team of loyalists. I remember there's an agent I know who talked about going to see Pochettino, and he's lovely and whatever, but he has his assistants there, and every time you crack a joke, all the assistants all laugh along. Ha 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 ha! Yes, boss. Yes, boss. You know, like and maybe behind closed doors it's different, but it is a very top-down type of management, and that's not the Red Bull way. Now, Nagelsmann comes with other baggage.
Yeah.
But he is familiar with that system. He's familiar with that dynamic, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of the reason it didn't work at Bayern.
Yeah, exactly.
So for me, logically, that would be the way to go. But who knows? It's you said the greatest thing about Lampard is you're gonna pop. Luis Enrique, sorry. You get the popcorn out. It's going to be entertaining.
Yeah. There's going to be drama for sure.
There'll be drama, but you know
if
what?
It's him. Yeah.
At some point, they're going to have to square the books here, and they're going to have to go and answer questions to their investors, because I've said this a million times. People act as if it's not the case, but Boli and Bedali Bali are very wealthy men, but they do not own Chelsea outright on their own. It's not their plaything. They have people they need to answer to as well.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.